What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul and I make videos about Japanese society, life and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been in Japan for 18 years and I'm not someone who believes in spiritual energy, power spots, power stones, that kind of thing. But there is one place in Japan that gives me pause and makes me think there might be something more going on there. And that is Fushimi Inari Taisha in Kyoto. It's a place that I absolutely love, and today I'm going to share 3 stories with you that make me wonder a little bit about that place, and I'll leave any conclusions about it up to you. My first trip to Fushimi Inari was in 2004 with my wife and her family. We went to see the autumn colors in Kyoto, and in typical Japanese tourist style, we crammed as many things into a day as possible, including Fushimi Inari. And as such, we didn't climb the entire hill, which is something I always recommend you do if you do go. But that time we didn't, because we didn't have time. Instead, we started at the bottom shrine, the main one, and then walked up to where the torii gates diverge and headed up to the shrine beyond those and basically turned around and left. But even in that short little time, I think my wife described it best when she said that at Fushimi Inari, kuki ga omoi, which essentially means the atmosphere is heavy. And I have to agree. The atmosphere did feel different because Fushimi Inari is really a far cry from the raked gardens and sculpted trees of the Buddhist temples of Kyoto. It really is a throwback to Japanese animism, Shinto religion. It feels much older and wilder somehow. So kuki ga omoi was a very fitting description. Fast forward a year to July of 2005. I'm only a month from leaving Japan to move back to the States. I was in Kyoto with my friend Mike. He was living in Osaka at the time, and we decided to tool around Nara and Kyoto a little bit for a couple of days, and we went to Fushimi Inari. The day we were there was rainy and dark, and so that kuki ga omoi, heavy atmosphere, was even more pronounced. We wandered about the shrine, and this was my first time to climb the entire hill. And at Fushimi Inari, there are a lot of little side paths that you can go off on and explore. Like, you can just climb the mountain loop, or you can diverge and check out these different places along the way. And there was one place that we stopped and looked off, and it was kind of a little clearing with a shrine and these large stone monuments. And Mike just said, yeah, I really don't want to go there. Let's just continue on. I thought, okay, well, let's just keep going. And we basically were not meeting anyone because it was a dark, gloomy day, and 2005 is still well before the huge tourist boom for foreign tourists coming to Kyoto. So there was really almost no one there. Now at Fushimi Inari, they sell candles that you can light and leave as offerings at shrines anywhere along the way. And we're walking there amongst all of the torii gates and all of the foxes, and we decide finally, okay, let's check out one of these side paths. We thought we've got some time, let's go check out what's in the nooks and crannies off to the edges of the main path. And as we went, we kind of got deeper and deeper, closer and closer to the rock face of the hill itself, until finally we rounded a corner and found ourselves at a dead end. And there's one final shrine there. Torii gates, fox statues, and one lit candle. Mike and I looked at each other. We didn't say a word. We just turned around and booked it a little fast out of there. And we talked about it later, and we just were thinking, why was there a candle there of all places? And how did we randomly choose the side path to find it? It just seemed a little bit overwhelming and creepy at the time. Now here's the thing that I've never told anyone, not even Mike, no one at all, and I'm exposing it here to a YouTube audience. That day was important for me because I knew I was leaving Japan and I didn't know when I would be returning. The plan in graduate school was always to return to Japan afterwards, but life can be strange. You're not always going to have everything go to plan. So I didn't know, would I really be returning after graduate school? So that time when I was leaving Kyoto, I felt pretty gloomy about it, pretty unhappy. That day at Fushimi Inari, I don't know if it was a psychological thing that my mind cooked up, or if it's genuinely something outside of me. But that day when I left Fushimi Inari, I had this distinct impression that something else left with me. Something that I knew I had to return at some point, thus guaranteeing that I would return to Fushimi Inari regardless of what the future held. And the entire time I was in the States in graduate school, I still had this feeling that there was something with me that meant I had to go back. Whether you want to interpret that as something actually left with me, or my mind had created this self-fulfilling prophecy, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But fast forward to 2014, nearly 10 years later, I finally returned to Kyoto for Kyoto Marathon. And even though I had run Kyoto Marathon on Sunday, I was going to Fushimi Inari and climbing that hill no matter what. So the next day, Monday, with my totally marathon wasted legs, I climbed the mountain. And that was an experience I will never forget. And it was fulfilling because I actually had the feeling that I had brought back to that place what I needed to bring back. Again, self-fulfilling prophecy, or there actually was something with me from Fushimi Inari that needed to be returned. I'll leave that up to you to decide. I have my own beliefs and feelings about it, which I'm not going to share. I'll leave it up to you. Which leads me to the third and final story, and this is probably the strangest or the most interesting coincidence, and that is I was in Kyoto just a few weeks ago. As you may have seen, I made a video how to enjoy Kyoto without crowds. I'll link it in the description below, and it's true to its word. It will show you how to enjoy Kyoto without crowds and how to enjoy Fushimi Inari without crowds. So please check it out. But I went there and I was filming, gathering footage for the video, etc., etc. And at some point I was looking back up the hill. I was on my descent and I was looking back up the hill, and I was feeling a little blue. I always feel a little blue when I'm about to leave Kyoto because I don't really want to leave. I want to spend more time there, explore more, enjoy it more. I was feeling a little bit blue. But my brain reminded me that, oh, you're coming back to Kyoto in just a few weeks for your friend's wedding. So you're not really leaving. You're coming right back just a couple weeks from now. And with that thought in mind, I turned away from the hill and started my descent. However, as I turned, I immediately came face to face with a Komainu statue. Now, Komainu are often seen as guardian statues in front of shrines, but it's a little bit remarkable in this case because most of the statues at Fushimi Inari are foxes. So I found myself face to face with one of the few Komainu you can find on the Fushimi Inari grounds, and it happened to be the one with its mouth closed. Now, these guardian statues, whether it's for shrines or temples, are often depicted one with its mouth open and one with its mouth closed. And the meaning behind that, as I learned from Japan essayist Alex Kerr in his book Another Kyoto, which I highly recommend, I learned that this goes back to ancient Hinduism, which is the mouth open represents the ah, or the beginning of sound, or the beginning, the alpha. And the closed mouth is the the end, the omega. And as such, when I came face to face with this Komainu, my thought of, oh, I'm coming back to Kyoto soon, immediately became, no, I'm not coming back to Kyoto. This feeling washed over me as I looked in the face of this fierce Komainu that I would not, in fact, be returning to Kyoto. I left Fushimi Inari that day. I didn't really think about it anymore. Like, I didn't forget. It was very, very clear in my brain, that experience, but I didn't dwell on it. And then, just a few weeks later, I am in Shin Yokohama. My Shinkansen ticket, or bullet train ticket, is in my hands, and the trains all get shut down. There's a typhoon going through Japan, and the rain was so strong that they had canceled the train service. I sat and waited, and eventually gave up and went home. And in fact, the trains did not start again until noon the next day. So even though I woke up early and checked, there was no way I was going to make the wedding on time. I did not return to Kyoto. My distinct impression came true. Coincidence? Was it a premonition? I don't know. That's the thing about Fushimi Inari. It makes me want to believe, or maybe actually believe, that there's something more going on there, and that I've some kind of connection with that place that I cannot explain. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. I highly recommend you go to Fushimi Inari if you find yourself in Kyoto. But when you leave, don't be too surprised if something goes away with you. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace. This is a divas. Hi, divas.